Cholesterol, for instance, isn't inherently bad. It's vital for cell membranes and hormone production.
In simple terms, anabolic resistance means your muscles have become deaf to the signals that protein sends. You can eat all the high-protein foods in the world, but if your muscles can't hear the message, you won't build or even maintain your strength. My name is Frank Taylor, and at 68 years young, I've spent a lot of time thinking about these very questions. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not a medical doctor or a geriatrician. My journey over the past decade has been a bit different. I've dedicated my retirement to being a sort of health detective for folks just like us. I spend my days digging into the latest clinical studies, and I want to emphasize that all the research I mention will always be linked in the description below, so you can check it for yourself. My goal is to take that complex scientific information and turn it into practical advice that we can actually use in our daily lives. And one of the most surprising truths I've found is this: the protein myth is perhaps the biggest thing sabotaging our senior health nutrition sarcopenia goals. Researchers from McMaster University, who are world leaders in this field, have shown it's not about how much protein you eat per day, but when and what kind you eat. So in today's video, we are going to solve this. First, I'll explain exactly what anabolic resistance is, using a simple rusty lock analogy. Second, we'll debunk the dangerous myth that all protein is created equal. And finally, I will share 3 specific, affordable foods that act as the ignition switch to force your muscles to listen to protein again. Before we dive in, I need to know, what is your go-to source of protein right now? Is it eggs? A protein shake? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single response.
The core problem, the rusty lock of anabolic resistance. All right, so let's dive into the why. Why does this happen? The problem, as I mentioned, has a scientific name. It's called anabolic resistance. Now, anabolic might sound like a complicated word, but it simply means to build. So, an anabolic state is a building state. When you lift a heavy grocery bag, you create tiny tears in your muscle. Your body then uses protein to build them back stronger. That's anabolism. Resistance is just what it sounds like. Your body is resisting that building process. This is the central, hidden enemy behind sarcopenia, that accelerated, age-related muscle loss that robs us of our independence. It's not just that we're getting older, it's that our body's response to protein is getting weaker. This is the single most important concept in senior health nutrition, sarcopenia, that we need to understand. So, let's use that rusty lock analogy I promised. Think of your muscle cell as a factory that builds new muscle. The door to that factory is locked. Protein is the key that unlocks the door. In our 30s and 40s, that lock is brand new and well-oiled. We eat a reasonable amount of protein, the key. We put it in the lock, it turns easily, the door swings open, and the factory fires up. Simple. Now fast forward to our 60s, 70s, or 80s. The lock is now old. It's stiff, it's rusty. This rust is anabolic resistance. Now you take the exact same key, the same chicken breast, the same high-protein foods, and you put it in that rusty lock. You try to turn it, and nothing happens. The key jiggles, but the bolt doesn't slide. The factory door stays shut. Your body, because of this resistance, can't hear the signal from the protein you just ate. So what happens to all that perfectly good protein, that key you just used? Your body is efficient. It doesn't let it go to waste. It just redirects it. It gets burned as short-term energy, like carbohydrates. Or, more frustratingly, it gets converted and stored as body fat. That is why you can be eating more protein than ever before, yet still be getting weaker. You're putting the key in the lock, but the door isn't opening. So the question that changes everything is, how do you open a rusty lock? You don't just keep jiggling the same key. You need something else. You need to hit the door with a hammer at the exact same time you turn the key. In our bodies, that hammer is a very specific superstar amino acid. Its name is leucine. Leucine is the ignition switch. It's the hammer. It's the primary signal that forces that rusty lock to open. Researchers who dedicate their lives to sarcopenia prevention, like Dr. Stuart Phillips from McMaster University, have shown that there is a leucine threshold. This is the critical part. Your body needs a minimum amount of leucine. Science suggests about 2.5 to 3 grams in a single sitting to flip that anabolic switch. If you don't hit that 2.5 gram threshold in a meal, you don't send the signal. The lock doesn't open. This is the true core of the problem for nutrition for elderly folks. We're not hitting the leucine threshold. And that leads us directly to the common myth we need to debunk. Debunking the popular solution, the all-protein is equal myth. So we've established our muscles have a rusty lock, anabolic resistance, and that we need a specific hammer called leucine to open it. This brings us directly to the single most common piece of advice given to seniors, and frankly, the myth that is sabotaging our efforts. What is that popular solution? You've heard it 1,000 times. Just eat more protein. Or its dangerous cousin, all protein is created equal. Now, let me be the health detective here. This advice is not wrong per se. It's just incomplete. And for seniors, incomplete advice is bad advice. It's absolutely true that as we get older, our bodies need more total protein. Studies like those published in the Annals of the New York Academy of Sciences suggest that while younger adults need about 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, seniors need more, closer to 1.2 or even 1.6 grams. So, yes, eat more protein is technically correct advice for senior nutrition. But here is the billion-dollar question. What happens if you follow that advice without understanding the rusty lock, anabolic resistance? You fail. Why? Because the total amount of protein you eat in a day is less important than how and when you eat it. This is the central myth we must debunk. Let's look at a very common, healthy day of eating for a senior. Breakfast, 8 a.m. You start with a healthy piece of whole wheat toast and a good schmear of peanut butter, maybe an ounce. That's about 7 to 8 grams of protein. Sounds good, right? But here's the catch. It only has about 0.5 grams of leucine. The result? The key goes in the lock, but it's not nearly enough to be the hammer. You did not hit the 2.5 gram leucine threshold. The factory door stays shut. That protein is used for energy, not muscle. Lunch, 12 p.m. You have a healthy bowl of lentil soup. Very good. Another 9–10 grams of protein. But again, you only get about 0.8 grams of leucine. The result? Again, no signal. The factory door remains closed. Dinner, 6 p.m. You've been good all day, so you have a nice 6-ounce salmon fillet. Now we're talking. That has almost 30 grams of protein and about 2.8 grams of leucine. The result? Success! You finally brought the hammer. The lock opens, the signal is sent, and the muscle-building factory fires up. Do you see the problem? You ate high-protein foods all day, but your muscles only received the signal to build or repair once. You had two-thirds of your meals, your breakfast and your lunch, where the protein was essentially wasted from a muscle-building standpoint. This is a critical failure in senior health nutrition, sarcopenia. This is why just eating more protein fails. It's the myth of protein spreading. We were taught to have a little at each meal. For us, that is the wrong approach. It's like trying to start a car with 3 weak turns of the key instead of one strong one. And let's talk about that other myth. All protein is equal. Bone broth and collagen powder are everywhere, promoted as senior health miracles, and they are loaded with protein. A single scoop can have 20 grams of protein. But here is the truth. They don't print on the label. Collagen is a terrible protein for building muscle. Why? Because it has almost zero leucine. It's high in other amino acids like glycine and proline, which are great for skin and joints. But for muscle, it's like putting a blank key in the lock. It has no teeth. It cannot send the signal. So you could be adding 20 grams of collagen to your coffee, thinking you're hitting your protein goals, but you are not hitting the leucine threshold. You are not fighting muscle loss. So the popular solution is a trap. It makes us focus on the total number at the end of the day, instead of the per-meal signal that actually matters. This is the detective work that changes the game for sarcopenia prevention. Stop counting just protein. You have to start counting leucine. This brings us to the real solution. If more protein is the wrong advice, what's the right advice? The real solution, the leucine pulse and the 30-gram protocol. So if the eat a little protein all day approach is a trap, and if all protein is not created equal, what is the real science-backed solution? This is where the health detective work gets truly exciting. The solution is not about eating more total protein, it's about eating smarter protein. It's about being strategic. If the problem is a rusty lock, anabolic resistance, and the key, protein, only works when hit with a hammer, leucine, the solution becomes perfectly clear. You must bring the hammer, leucine, every single time you use the key, protein. You have to hit that leucine threshold, that 2.5 to 3 gram minimum, at every main meal. This is where the research from world-leading sarcopenia labs, like those at McMaster University and the University of Texas Medical Branch, completely changes the game for senior nutrition. Scientists like Dr. Douglas Patton-Jones and Dr. Stuart Phillips have championed a concept that I call the protein pulse, or protein bolus approach. They discovered that our muscles' factories don't work on a dimmer switch. They work on an on-off switch. When you eat a low-leucine breakfast like that peanut butter toast, you don't turn on the switch. It stays off. When you have that small lentil soup at lunch, it stays off. You are effectively in a muscle-wasting state for 2/3 of your day, even though you are eating high-protein foods. This is the core failure of typical nutrition for elderly advice. The solution is to pulse your protein intake. You need to consume a concentrated dose, a bolus, of high-quality, high-leucine protein in one sitting to slam that on switch. So, what is the magic number? How much protein do you need in one meal to guarantee you hit that 2.5 gram leucine hammer? The clinical research overwhelmingly points to one number, 30 grams. This is the protocol. Aiming for approximately 30 grams of protein 3 times a day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, is the most effective strategy for sarcopenia prevention and overcoming muscle loss. This 30-30 rule ensures that at each meal you deliver a powerful enough pulse of leucine to break through that anabolic resistance and force the muscle-building factory to turn on. Now, I can hear what some of you are thinking. Frank, 30 grams in one meal. That sounds like a lot. And isn't that much protein bad for my kidneys? This is a critical and often misunderstood part of senior health nutrition sarcopenia. Let's be detectives for a moment. This fear largely comes from studies on people with pre-existing severe kidney disease. For that group, yes, protein must be restricted. But for the vast majority of older adults with healthy or even just aging kidneys, this myth has been thoroughly debunked. A 2018 meta-analysis in the Journal of Nutrition, Health, and Aging found that higher protein intakes, up to 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight, had no adverse effects on renal function in healthy seniors. In fact, the opposite is true. Not eating enough protein is far more dangerous. It leads to frailty, muscle loss, falls, and a loss of independence. As always, check with your own doctor if you have specific kidney concerns, but do not be afraid of protein. So, the real solution isn't a magic pill, it's a change in strategy. Stop grazing on protein. Stop eating 10 grams here, 15 grams there. It's not working. The solution is to pulse your protein. This means you must prioritize leucine-rich ignition foods. What are they? These are proteins where leucine is abundant. The champions are whey protein. This is the king. It's the most leucine-rich, fastest-digesting protein. It's not just for bodybuilders. It's a medical-grade tool for sarcopenia prevention. Dairy, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, milk. These contain both whey and casein, a perfect leucine-rich combination. Animal proteins, red meat, poultry, fish, and eggs. These are all complete proteins with a high leucine content. Soy protein. This is the king of plant-based proteins, as its leucine content is very high, rivaling animal sources. This is why that 7 grams of protein from peanut butter toast fails. Wheat and peanut protein are low in leucine. They are keys without teeth. So the real solution is a two-part protocol. Focus on leucine-rich ignition foods. Eat them in a 30-gram pulse at each main meal. This strategy provides the hammer and the key all at once, 3 times a day, forcing your body to finally listen to the protein you're eating. Now, this all sounds good in theory, but what does 30 grams of protein actually look like on a plate? And how can you do it affordably? That brings us to our next section, the practical application. The actionable protocol, Frank's ignition food list. All right, this is my favorite part. This is where the health detective puts the lab report away and we talk about what to put on our grocery list. The 30-30-30 protocol sounds great, but I know what you're thinking. Frank, 30 grams of protein sounds like a huge steak for breakfast. I want to assure you it is not. It's not about volume, it's about strategy. And this strategy is affordable. We're going to use simple, powerful, healthy food staples to hit our 30-gram target, and, most importantly, to get that 2.53-gram leucine hammer to fight muscle loss. I'm going to give you my top 4 ignition foods, the cheapest, easiest, most leucine-dense foods you can buy. Ignition food number 1, the dairy champions, Greek yogurt and cottage cheese. This is, without a doubt, the number 1 recommendation I give for sarcopenia prevention. Plain Greek yogurt and cottage cheese are rocket fuel for senior muscles. Why? They are packed with both whey and casein proteins. Whey is fast-acting and floods your body with leucine, while casein is slow-digesting, feeding your muscles for hours. Let's look at the numbers. 1 cup of plain Greek yogurt. This gives you about 22 grams of protein and 2.5 grams of leucine. 1 cup of 2% cottage cheese. This is even better. It packs about 26 grams of protein and a massive 2.9 grams of leucine. Do you see what this means? With just 1 cup of either of these, you have already hit the leucine threshold. You've turned the all-N switch. How to get to 30G? You're already so close. To hit the 30-gram goal, just add a small handful of almonds, about 6G protein, or a scoop of hemp seeds, 5 to 6G protein, on top. You're done. That is a perfect muscle-building breakfast. This is the definition of senior nutrition tips that work. Ignition food number 2. The easy button. Whey protein isolate. Now, I want to talk about the guarantee. This is the easy button for those days when your appetite is low or you're in a hurry. I'm talking about simple, unflavored whey protein isolate. Please forget the image of the 20-year-old bodybuilder. We need to start thinking of whey protein as a medical-grade tool for senior health nutrition sarcopenia. Why? It is the most leucine-rich, bioavailable protein on the planet. 1 scoop of whey isolate. This typically contains 25 to 30 grams of protein and a massive 3 grams of leucine. It is a perfect 30-gram pulse in a single scoop. It's also gentle on the stomach and digests quickly, making it ideal for the morning. How to use it? Don't just mix it with water. To make it a meal, blend 1 scoop with a cup of milk, or soy milk for extra protein, half a banana, and a spoonful of almond butter. It's a delicious 40-gram protein leucine bomb that takes 2 minutes and guarantees you've flipped the on switch for your muscles. A quick detective note. Make sure it is whey or soy isolate. As we discussed, collagen powder does not count. It has almost no leucine and will not stop muscle loss. Ignition food number 3, the affordable classics, eggs and canned fish. These are my protein boosters. They are cheap, versatile, and packed with high-quality protein. Let's start with eggs. 1 large egg has about 6 grams of high-quality protein and 0.5 leucine. The common mistake. Many people have 2 eggs, 12 grams protein, and think they've had a high-protein breakfast. As we now know, 12 grams is not enough to hit the 30-gram target. It won't flip the switch. How to use them? Use eggs to boost another protein source. For example, have that 1 cup of cottage cheese, 26G, with 2 scrambled eggs, 12G. Now you're at 38 grams. You've smashed the goal. Next, canned fish like tuna, salmon, or sardines. These are fantastic high-protein foods. 1 can of tuna in water. This is a powerhouse. It contains about 28 to 30 grams of protein and 2.5 grams of leucine. How to use it? For lunch, mix 1 can of tuna with that 1 cup of Greek yogurt, 22G, instead of mayonnaise. You've just made a tuna salad with over 50 grams of muscle-building protein. You'll be in an anabolic state for hours. Ignition food number 4, the plant-based kings, tofu and lentils. Finally, for my plant-based friends. This is where senior nutrition often fails, as most plant proteins, like nuts, seeds, and wheat, are too low in leucine on their own. You must focus on the kings, soy, tofu, edamame. Half a block, 7OZ, of firm tofu has about 20 grams of protein and 1.8 grams of leucine. Lentils. 1 cup of cooked lentils has about 18 grams of protein and 1.4 grams of leucine. As you can see, it's harder to hit the 2.5G leucine threshold with these, so you must combine them. How to use them? For lunch, have a large lentil soup to gain protein, but add a side of firm tofu, 20G in protein. Or have a large tofu stir-fry and add a full cup of edamame, 18G in protein. You must combine these healthy food sources to get your total over 30 grams to ensure you hit that leucine signal. This is the practical plan. It's not about eating more. It's about eating smarter. It's about making sure every meal counts. Conclusion.
So, we have covered a lot of ground today. We've gone deep into the science of sarcopenia, but information is useless unless we put it into action. So, as your health detective, I'm not going to just leave you with information. I want to leave you with a simple, powerful 7-day challenge. I don't want you to overhaul your entire life. That's overwhelming and it doesn't stick. Instead, for the next 7 days, I want you to do just one thing. Fix your breakfast. That's it. Don't worry about lunch or dinner for now. Just for the next 7 days, I want you to start your day by winning the fight against muscle loss. Begin your morning with a 30-gram protein pulse. Use one of the ignition foods we talked about. Maybe it's that 1 cup of Greek yogurt with a handful of almonds. Maybe it's that 1 cup of cottage cheese. Or perhaps you'll finally try that high leucine whey protein smoothie. It's not a lifetime commitment. It's just a 7-day experiment. Do that and just pay attention. Pay attention to your energy levels at 11 a.m. Pay attention to your clarity of mind. This is your first powerful step. So to quickly recap, we learned today, first, that frustrating muscle loss isn't just getting old. It's a specific condition called anabolic resistance, that rusty lock that stops our muscles from hearing the protein we eat. Second, we debunked the myth that just eating more protein is the answer. We learned that when and what kind you eat matters more, because most healthy proteins don't have the leucine hammer to open the lock. And finally, we discovered the real science-backed solution, the 30-30-30 protocol, pulsing our meals with 30 grams of leucine-rich ignition foods to force that on switch for muscle growth. Remember, this journey of senior health nutrition sarcopenia is about making small, consistent choices every day, not about being perfect. I would love to hear from you. We are building a community of health detectives here. What is one ignition food from our list today that you are willing to try for breakfast this week? Are you going to try the cottage cheese? Are you going to make that tuna salad with Greek yogurt? Please share your plan in the comments below. As I always promise, I read every single response. If you found this information helpful, please click that thumbs up button and share it with a friend or family member who you know is struggling with this. And of course, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next investigation. We're going to be looking at the surprising link between your gut health and your muscle strength. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Frank Taylor, and I'll see you in the next video.